Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Boss Old Man Phil. Yay, yay. Hello everybody. Well, it's not time for buses yet, so I thought I'd take you into my shop here and show you a few things. Come on baby, come on baby. Here's my baby, here's my baby Maggie. She always follows me down here to the combination shop and man cave. So, here are some classic items for those of you who would like to set up a shop with some simple to use equipment, reliable, not difficult to find yet, but I wanted to show you some equipment. This is the Simpson 260. This is the creme de la creme of test equipment. I can't see the dial, but the camera sees it, but it doesn't always show in the viewfinder. This is the Simpson Model 260 volt ohmmeter. This unit was designed in the 40s and was a very popular piece of shop equipment from then on up through the 70s. In 1980, I was still using it. I use this today frequently. This one goes on journeys with me out into the field frequently when I do bus electrical work. The next item is the VTVM, the vacuum tube voltmeter. This RCA model, senior volt ohms. This was a very popular piece of shop test equipment, again from the 50s to the 70s. I'm tethered here by the line cord. This is run from AC power, from the AC power line. The Simpson 260 was not. The Simpson 260 operates independent of the power line. It has batteries in it that operate the ohmmeter. This has batteries also that operate the ohmmeter. This is, being a vacuum tube voltmeter, doesn't present load on finely tuned radio circuits like the 260 did. But the 260 had its place in life, and this is out of sight. I can't show it to you right now. Now, a very handy instrument that Radio Shack used to sell, which I like a lot. This is quite accurate, and unfortunately I've lost several of these. They may still be available. And again, I can't tell how much you can see, but what I'm going to do is view it before I post it. This is the Radio Shack something or other. I don't know. They're usually quite proud of displaying their model numbers, but this one is quite well hidden. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Okay, now I've been dragged into the modern century, kicking and screaming, but here I am with a digital voltmeter. Can you imagine a digital voltmeter? Well, it's handy, and for you guys, if you want to wait around and watch this thing flicker and jump and watch the numbers flicker and jump like mad like that, waiting to get the accurate reading, well, be my guest. I'm not crazy about this device. Next thing I wanted to show you for shop equipment is the ever handy pencil soldering gun. You may consider having one of these around. This is this one is a 40 watt, and it's really good for certain things. And the all-time favorite, of course, the one I use most of all, is the Weller soldering gun. This is the one I use most of the time in my shop. This is a 100 140. It's 2 speeds or 2 heats. Okay, that's enough of that. Now I'm going to stop the camera for a minute and move over and show you a couple of other things. And then I want to get started on putting batteries in a Transoceanic. There are several pieces already on YouTube about doing that, and they're all good. My favorite is this one by Ed Morris. I'll hold it still if I can never find a place that the camera focuses on. Anyway, Ed Morris, spelled just like that, has 2 really good video clips on putting batteries in a Zenith Transoceanic. I encourage you to watch those. If you don't have a Transoceanic, watch it for entertainment. He does a real bang-up job on that. I'm not going to. I'm going to do a quickie job on this. So you'll see some things that don't look the same as Ed's. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not into restoring stuff. I'm into repairing stuff. As you'll see with my buses, I get them running. It's up to the owners to go beyond that. It's the same with the Zenith Transoceanic radios. I repair them so they work good. I align them so they sound good and work good on all of the bands, but I do not replace components that are working. So on all of the Transoceanic radios that I work on, they all need power supply work. The electrolytic capacitors are bad in all of them, so those go. Beyond that, I only do whatever I have to do to make the radio work good. I measure capacitors and resistors that typically fall out of their measurements, and that's about it. I put tubes in where they need to be. Old, weak tubes I replace. I do not replace tubes just for the hell of it, and I do not replace resistors and capacitors just for the hell of it. So anyway, okay, so I'm going to take you now to the beginning of my project of batterying up, and this is a whole batch of these single, I have one handy here, these single 9-volt battery connectors that are available online. Probably 150 companies sell these. I get stuff from Amazon. It's easy to order stuff from Amazon. I'm a Prime member, so I get a credit every now and then for how much money I spend. So these come in single. This will hold one single 9-volt battery, which I also don't have handy. And I'm going to show you something between the Duracell and the Energizer. There's a voltage difference between the two, and I want to show you. So now I glue 2 of these together like this. And I can't find either of these 2 Duco cements better than the other. They both seem to hold equally. They'll hold pretty good, but they'll snap loose because this plastic material is not melted or conjoined by the glue. The glue just sticks to the surface. Another thing I do, and you'll see it in here, is I use plain ordinary silicone caulk. That doesn't seem to be the worst thing in the world. So I have both. I have the Duco cement and I have the silicone. So what I've done is I've soldered, or not soldered, I've glued these units side by side and back to back. This adds up to 6 times 9 is 54. 6 times 9 is 54 for a total of 108 volts. In the schematics, it shows 90 volts plus or minus. So it's not going to hurt anything to run at 108 volts. What happens is you get a little more battery operating time because as the voltage drops, it doesn't significantly change the performance of the radio. So the trick here is, like Ed showed you on his, is that you wire the batteries in series, meaning that each battery adds. So we start out with 9 volts, 18 volts, 24 volts, and so on. Yeah, I know, you thought I was going to go all the way to the top, didn't you? Well, I fooled you. So now what I'm going to do is extremely carefully wire these in series. Ed took a lot of trouble cutting and splicing the wires, sliding a little piece of heat shrink spaghetti each time. You know, I'm going to turn this light off and see if things look better. I don't know if this makes things look better or not. But what I'm going to do I think I'll turn the light back on now. So what I'm going to do is, if you look inside the sockets, you'll see the little polarity markers. And here are the wires that come out. I've arranged them to come out. See how they look here. You can see how they look, how they come out of the back. Well, I brought them around so they're on the top of the bottom. And so what I want to do is start at one end or the other. So I'll just start at this end, and this will be the positive. This begins the string that adds up to 108 volts. So this will connect to the positive battery, or the B plus rather, the B plus on the radio. Then this is the negative to here. Here's the negative wire from this one. So I'll start the series by going negative to positive, negative to positive, negative to positive, all the way across and all the way up here. And they'll be in a daisy chain. And you need to be very careful when you're doing this kind of work, because in the blink of an eye, you'll have a wire in the wrong place. So if you rush through this job, you will guarantee your failure. So I will carefully cut and trim each wire, and instead of splicing the wires together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this wire, and then I'll tin the 1/8 inch of bare wire, and I'll put it inside the base like that, and I'll solder it there. So instead of having that wire connecting to this wire like this, I'm just going to run them inside. And I'll do the same thing with the positive. And what happens is at the end, this will be the hot wire, and this will be the common or negative wire. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to stop the camera now and get things ready, get the soldering gun heated up. I'm not going to show you cutting and trimming the wires. That's something that you can do. I use this one, and I mark on the handle. This is I can't see that. This doesn't have any brand either. I bought this at the hardware store. I like it because it has these nice big handles that don't slip off. Here's one of the cheapies. Klein Tools, okay, with the handles that slip off. And this is an 18 to 10. That's not small enough for this thin wire. This is a 20. This goes down to a 20 gauge. So I'm going to use this one. And I'm not going to show that, but I suppose I could do one little thing here. I'll do one little thing. I'll cut this piece of wire off, and then I'll show you to put that piece of wire in the 20 and squeeze it carefully. Hold the wire like this, wrap it around your finger and yank on it, and there you have the stripped end. What I've done is I've cut and trimmed the negative wires. You can see all the negative wires. I have it going from the negative here to the positive here, negative, positive, negative, and so on. Now I've come to the last one. You can see where I've trimmed the wire. I need to hold this against something so you can see it. Where you can see this wire I've trimmed. No, you can't. Anyway, so now this wire is going to be soldered down into here. This is the negative from this battery holder to this battery. So this is the negative here from this battery, goes to the positive of this battery. So I'm going to solder that in there. And then this is a positive lead from here, and it'll go to negative, and I'll do the same thing on this side until I have all of these batteries in a daisy chain. What I'm going to do is tin this wire. See, just get a little bit of solder on this wire, like that, and then tin this. Put a little, just quickly get some solder on this. Do it very quickly or you'll melt the metal into the plastic, like that. Now there's solder here, inside here, and there's solder on this wire. Now all I do now is hold the soldering iron on and quickly, and that's it. And then I'll take a screwdriver tip and cool that. Remember, this is plastic. This black plastic will melt if you get these terminals too hot. So now I've completed the negative circuit all the way around. So I started here and I came all the way around and I ended up here. What that means is the last terminal, the last wire, will be here, the negative. This is the positive, this is the negative, okay? I'm going to cut the camera off now and get this part done and trim off all these extra wires now. We don't need these because we use jumpers all the way across. So the batteries themselves create the positive jumpers, so we don't need all these wires here. So back in a minute. Now here's something I'd like to show you, and I hope you can see the digital meter here. Here are two brand new Duracell 9-volt batteries, and I want to show you something that I find strange. Now remember, we have to watch all this jumping around. Remember what I told you about these meters. We have to see all this jumping around. Anyway, what I'm trying to show you is that the brand new Duracells read 9.53 volts. Now, I'll show you, and I've seen this before. I've seen this difference on all of the batteries. And here now is the Energizer battery. Also brand new. 8.98. The other was 9.35, 8.98. You see the difference, and that's almost a half a volt difference. Now when you're going over 12 volts, a half a volt, that sounds like 6 volts. So it's a little strange, a little unusual, and I don't understand it. And it's the same with the AA batteries and the same with the AAA batteries. I've never measured the C and D batteries, so I don't know how they're going to do. So now what I'm going to do is cut off all these red wires. We don't need these because we have everything in series. The only red wire we need is the very first one, the very first red wire and the very last black wire. I'm going to cut off all the rest of these wires. Then I'm going to put batteries in each of these spots here. And I'm going to have to mix batteries. I'm out of Duracells. I've been meaning for a week to get to Menards or Home Depot and buy batteries, and I haven't done it yet. What you'll notice when you're installing batteries in these holders is that these black clips are really very strong, excessively. So carefully set the battery in so that the post will clip in. Remember, be careful or this thing's going to come apart. Get them to click in. Then take a pair of needle nose and pry up on this clamp. Otherwise, you're going to break the assembly trying to get the battery in. So pry up a little, and then you can push in on the battery, and everything will be happy and copacetic. So I'm going to keep installing batteries down. When I get them all in, then I'm going to take a voltage reading here, and that'll be about the 5th time that I've checked my wiring. I did it every time I made a connection. I used the ohmmeter to make sure that I had them hooked up right. Negative to positive, negative to positive, negative to positive, all the way around. Now on the radio I'm working on, someone had already cut these leads off, so I just going to rig up my own quick connectors here. In Zenith's own way of thinking, the red, which you would assume would be the B+, happens to be the filament plus. This is the filament plus. These little battery tubes I'm going to just diddle around here with it. These little battery tubes are 1.4 to 1.6 volts filaments. That's DC. So what I rigged up was a DC battery pack consisting of 6 AA's. What I found, quite unscientifically, is that the AA batteries and the 9-volt batteries seem to wear equally. This size AA battery kind of wears down about the same rate as the 9-volt B plus batteries. Ed Morris says that this battery combination will run about 400 hours. He figures up a different system that'll run a lot longer. Now, I'll tell you what, you and me and 87 other people are not going to listen to our Zenith Transoceanics on batteries for 400 hours. I think I probably use mine about 3 hours a year. I've had batteries in that one now for 5 years, and they're starting to get weak now, and probably just they're aging out, any just as much as if I was using them. So this is the battery pack. So this, as you can see, 6 times 1.5 is 8. If my math is right, here's 3, 4.5. 4.5 is 9. Okay, 9 volts. All right. The battery circuit at 1.4, or the filament circuit at 1.4 volts, and then 2.8 for the 3S4. That is the audio tube back in behind here. Comes out, I had the numbers, I think it's 8, so 9 is close enough. So I can now attach the A supply here to this, and this now should energize the battery, or the filament circuit. So what I'll do is I'll put the meter on that now and see what our voltage is there. If I can get everything in the camera here, I will. So we have 7.5. Come on, hold it steady there, Phil. Come on, old man. And I'm showing 9.25 volts. So that's fine. 9.25 volts divided among 5 tubes is okay. I did the math yesterday. I don't remember what it is. So there we have, that's active now. I do have the switch on in front. Okay, going back to the battery pack, this is the B plus pack, and I had to use some energizers and some Duracells. I ran out of Duracells. There's 108 volts here. So now I'm going to rig up the quick connectors. This is the B plus. Remember that the green wire on the Transoceanics is the B plus. On 137,000 other battery radios, and on all electric radios in the world from the days of Adam and Eve to tomorrow, the green is the filament circuit. But Zenith has decided that the red should be the filament circuit and the green should be the B plus circuit. Okay. So what I'm going to do next is strip the red wire, and be very careful because these strands are thinner than a human hair. So I'm going to strip this back about a ½ an inch or 3/4 of an inch, because what I want to do is double or triple the wire that I crimp into the quick connector. And I like to tin everything. So I'm going to tin this wire, and then it won't fray when I bend it. Always shake blue solder off your soldering iron, because if you don't, it corrodes the tip. Now I can fold this over 2 or 3 times. And that makes a thick enough bundle that when it goes into here, and I turn the viewfinder around so I know what I'm doing here, so that when it goes into here, it's kind of a tight fit. And put that in far enough so you can see it just coming to the edge, coming through to the edge. Or measure it this way, like this with your fingernail, because you want it right in here. You want that right at this point of this round point of the shaft, because that's where you're going to crimp it. Be careful now the wire doesn't slide out while you're doing this. Crimp it good. Here's another example of these crappy handles they put on tools. When you squeeze them, it comes right through. See that? That doesn't feel good on the palm of my hand. Okay, now carefully give it a little tug. Make sure that you've crimped it good. If you're nervous about how well you've crimped it, turn it around 180 degrees and crimp it again. That way it's crimped on both sides. Careful you don't pinch your fingers in here. These tools are dangerous. Alright, now that will plug in to that filament, or I mean to that B+. Okay, the ground is common to the filament and the B+. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to use this time a blue one. And again, I'm going to strip about a ½ an inch of this wire, ½ 3/4 of an inch. And then I'll tin it. By the way, this box of solder I inherited from a friend of mine. He purchased it at Radio Shack in 1950. And there's probably no more than maybe 5% of it used so far. Oops, I forgot to unplug the soldering iron so I didn't burn myself. So that'll be a minute for that to warm up. Meanwhile, I'll go back over here. And you may have seen these Jiminy Crickets around. It's a double connector. So like you can connect 2 circuits. So here's the filament circuit to the common. So here's a female receptor and a male receptor on one fitting. So I'm going to plug this male into this female here. And since this is a common ground, I'm not worried about shielding it or anything. There's nothing that can touch, because you see here the filament plus, the A plus line is shielded, and I have a piece of spaghetti that I'm going to put over the B plus line once I connect it. So I'm not worried about this being open like this. But what's clever about this is now I use a female connector on the battery pack, and that'll plug in here like this. And that'll be the common ground for the B plus. In radio lingo, the A supply is for the tube filaments. The B supply is the B, or the high voltage circuit, for the screen grids and the plates. And in some battery radios, there was a C circuit, and that was for grid bias. That was to provide a certain amount of negative control grid control voltage. I've been working on radios for many years, since I was a kid. I started working on radios in 1948, and to this day I can make a radio work just as good without control grid bias. So some radios had it, some didn't. I think sometimes engineers just didn't have anything to do, so they designed circuits. Many of you will think that today. All right, this iron is hot enough now, and I guess I should put this back over here so you can see what I'm doing now. I like microphone stands. They make great camera holders. The microphone stand with the pivoting extension arm, I love that. Okay, so now I'm going to tin this piece of wire. Shake off the excess, and now I'm going to fold it. Just like I did the red wire. And now I'll insert this blue connector. Squeeze it in there. See where it's protruding through. And now hold it steady and get your clamp on it. Get this. Don't let the wire slide back. Keep your eye on it. And squeeze that good and tight. And turn it over the other way and squeeze it on that side too. Yeah, and the big boys will tell you, oh, you don't have to do that. Yeah, you don't have to do that. And once is enough. Okay, so here it is. I now have the common negative and the B plus ready to connect to the radio. I'm going to reach around and turn the switch on and turn the volume up on the radio. Put it on the broadcast band, because that's the one where you'll hear the noise first. And then bring the B batteries over. Plug the negative in. And the positive. Just touch it quickly.
Came late in that second frame. Points in the paint belongs to the Timberwolves. 22-18 there. Wolves able to curtail some of those turnovers after 4 in the first frame. They've got just 6 at the half.
An old Zenith Transoceanic.
But the Mavs
that
Still have
is
the
now
advantage taking care of the
running
basketball.
on
Just 3
batteries.
first half turnovers for Dallas.
The
They've
line
got a
cord
lead in the
plugs in to slots that are here that uncouple the battery circuit when you plug the radio in to run on the power line. So I'm going to plug this into the power line now.
Just say I'm in and play
There
the
you
Minnesota
are.
Lottery.
It's plugged into the power line. Now I'm going to plug it back into the battery pack.
And next on the XL Energy Timberwolves
There you
Radio
are.
Network.
Okay, that's it.
Timberwolves and Arby's
Hope you like that.
Free meats this season by lighting
Now,
up downtown with the We
I'll
Have
turn
the
the camera
Threes
back
promotion.
around
That's right,
on me.
We have the threes. So every time the pack cashes in 12 threes at a home or away game, all fans with the Timberwolves mobile app can get a free Arby's Classic Fresh.
I got a message from, well, I better turn this radio down. You're not going to hear me.
This promo is only available at regular season games. Limit 1 per customer and is valid at participating stores in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. For complete list of participating stores, visit timberwolves.com/Arby's.
Okay, so that's it. Just a little side trip. Just going off on a little trip, waiting. Going to have a silver sides up here, maybe the weekend of April 11th. And if so, I'll get started on that. Yeah. And the organ project is delayed because of other things. The pastor is busy, the church is busy, there have been a couple of funerals, and Ed is busy. And so this just isn't a good time to finish that organ project. Probably get back to that in a couple of weeks. So, okay, Cookie wants to say goodnight, so I'm going to head upstairs. Hope you like this little project. See y'all. Be sure and leave comments and comment on the comments. I know you hear that all the time. And one more thing, I want you to remember, I love all of you. I love doing this. I love this. It's entertainment for me, and I hope you enjoy it also. And if you're inclined to want one of these Zenith Transoceanic radios, I have some here that I'd be glad to sell. They all work. They all have good tubes in them. I have 5 of these radios, different models. I have an H500, I have a G500, and I have 8 G005s. The 8 G005 was the mother of them all. That's the 8-tube battery radio. I have those here for sale, $135 a piece, shipped in the United States. They're working. They are not restored. I do not restore radios. Here's what. If I restore a radio, then I'm going to be responsible for it the rest of my life. So I'll fix it and make sure it's working right the way it's supposed to. If you want to chop out all the old parts and put new ones in, you can do that. But if you're interested in one of these radios, you can contact me at busoldmanphil@gmail.com. busoldmanphil@gmail.com. So, thanks. Okay, let's go upstairs and say goodnight to Cookie. It's her bedtime, and it's getting close to my bedtime, too. Well, here's the finished product. Batteries are installed, everything is set up. The shortwave bands are pretty quiet today, not much on shortwave.
Para mañana. Luego de personarse varios activistas del movimiento 13 de marzo, pues le han suspendido la vista que se dio del Estado a las 2 de la tarde.
I used some contact cleaner to get these push buttons working good.
And a refreshing stream from which tired and weary pilgrims have quenched.
And don't forget, democracy is not a spectator.
Revive Our Hearts wants to help you dwell in God's Word. This program is an...
Instruction time check is 1:57. Time to invest in...
So, anyway, that's it. We're done. Did you want to say goodnight to the people? Well, here she is. Come on and say good night to everybody, Cookie. Oh, there's our Cookie. Come on, get in there.
Good night, everybody. I just finished for cooking.
Hold on, I don't see you. We can't see your face. Wait a minute, let's get some light on here. Oh, we gotta see the cookie. We have to see the cookie.
Good night. Good night, everybody. I just finished for cooking. Now I'm good. Good night, everybody. I'm going to sleep now. I finished the cooking, okay? Did you see this one? Cook, rice cook. I just crazy for the from now, okay?
You have to see yourself.
I just finished for
Oh, there
cook, that's
you
why.
are.
That's why I'm crazy. Okay, good night, everybody.
Okay.
Tick, 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 tick.
There you have it, folks.